In 1931, the largest cathedral in Russia was destroyed in a single day. Explosives reduced the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour to rubble, erasing nearly a century of history in minutes. The reason? To make space for something even bigger. Stalin had a vision. He wanted to build the tallest structure on Earth. Not just a building, but a monument to Soviet power that would dominate the Moscow skyline and dwarf every skyscraper in the capitalist world. The Palace of the Soviets would stand 415 meters tall, crowned with a colossal statue of Lenin, reaching toward the sky. It would be a symbol of communism's triumph, visible for kilometers in every direction. But the palace was never finished. Today, the cathedral stands rebuilt on the same spot, and Stalin's giant exists only in fading blueprints and propaganda posters. This is the story of the tallest building never built. To understand why Stalin ordered the destruction of a cathedral, it's necessary to understand the Soviet Union in the early 1930s. The revolution had succeeded. The Tsar was gone. The Bolsheviks controlled the largest country on earth. But symbols of the old regime remained everywhere, and the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour was one of the most visible. The cathedral had been built in the 19th century to commemorate Russia's victory over Napoleon. It was a monument to Russian orthodoxy, to the Tsar, and to everything the communists were trying to erase. It stood in the center of Moscow, a golden-domed reminder that the old world still existed. Stalin saw it as an obstacle. More than that, he saw an opportunity. The site was perfect, central, elevated, symbolic. If the cathedral could be removed, something greater could take its place. In December 1931, the demolition began. Explosives were planted throughout the structure. Witnesses described the sound as deafening, the dust cloud visible across the city. Within hours, the cathedral was gone. The Palace of the Soviets would replace it. The project was announced as an international competition in 1931, attracting entries from architects around the world. Over 160 designs were submitted, including proposals from Le Corbusier and Walter Gropius. But the Soviet leadership had a specific vision. They wanted monumentalism. They wanted height. They wanted a structure that would make capitalist skyscrapers look insignificant. The winning design came from Boris Iofan, a Soviet architect who understood what Stalin wanted. His proposal was staggering in scale. The main building would be a tiered tower, rising in steps like a wedding cake, combining elements of Art Deco with socialist realism aesthetics. But the true centerpiece was at the top, a statue of Lenin, 100 meters tall, standing with one arm raised as if addressing the world below. The total height would be 415 meters. To put that in perspective, the Empire State Building, then the tallest structure in the world, stood at 381 meters. Stalin's palace would be taller, and unlike a skyscraper built for offices or apartments, this would be a palace of government and propaganda. Inside would be meeting halls, conference rooms, and a massive auditorium capable of seating 21,000 people. The symbolism was deliberate. Lenin would stand higher than any monument in the capitalist world. Visitors entering the palace would pass through vast halls decorated with socialist imagery. The structure would be illuminated at night, making it visible from every corner of Moscow. It would be a lighthouse of communism. Construction began in 1937. The foundation was massive, requiring deep excavations and steel reinforcements capable of supporting the immense weight. Early progress was documented in propaganda films showing workers digging, pouring concrete, and assembling the structural framework. Stalin visited the site personally, inspecting the work and demanding faster progress. But the project faced problems from the beginning. The site was unstable. Moscow sits on soft clay soil, and the proximity to the Moscow River created drainage issues. Engineers struggled to create a foundation strong enough to support a structure of that weight and height. Construction slowed, costs increased, and then, in 1941, everything stopped. Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union. World War II had begun, and suddenly Stalin's architectural ambitions meant nothing. Resources were redirected to the war effort. Steel intended for the palace was melted down for weapons. Workers were sent to the front. The construction site was abandoned. The foundation remained. For years, it sat empty in the center of Moscow, a massive hole in the ground surrounded by rusting scaffolding. After the war ended, there was talk of resuming construction. New designs were proposed. Stalin still wanted his palace, but the practicalities had changed. The Soviet Union was rebuilding cities destroyed by war. Millions were homeless. Spending resources on a symbolic skyscraper became politically difficult to justify. Stalin died in 1953. With him died the political will to complete the palace. The site remained abandoned for another 5 years until someone had an unusual idea. If the foundation couldn't support a skyscraper, perhaps it could support something else. In 1958, the foundation of the Palace of the Soviets was converted into the world's largest open-air swimming pool. The Moskva pool could accommodate 10,000 swimmers at once. It was heated year-round, creating clouds of steam even in the freezing Moscow winters. For decades, the pool operated on the site where Stalin's giant was supposed to stand, a bizarre and ironic ending for one of history's most ambitious architectural projects. But the story doesn't end there. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the question of what to do with the site resurfaced. The pool was deteriorating, maintenance costs were high, and there was growing support for a different kind of restoration. In 1994, the Russian Orthodox Church announced plans to rebuild the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour. Not a new cathedral, a reconstruction of the exact building that Stalin had destroyed 60 years earlier. The pool was demolished. Construction began. And in 2000, the cathedral was consecrated, standing once again on the site it had occupied before the revolution. Today, visitors to Moscow see the rebuilt cathedral, its golden domes gleaming in the sun, standing exactly where Stalin's giant was supposed to rise. The Palace of the Soviets exists only in archives, a monument to ambition, hubris, and the limits of ideology. It's a reminder that not every vision deserves to be built. Some projects are too large, too expensive, too impractical, and some are built on the ruins of things that should never have been destroyed. If you enjoyed this story of an unbuilt megaproject, subscribe for the next episode. There are many more giants that never rose.